As a nonprofit leader, how often do you get suggestions? These usually start out with something like, you should have more staff. You should create a new building over here. We should really have these systems and processes. We should have this software. We should really have bylaws that speak to what we're doing. You should, the list goes on and on. And every time I would get these you shoulds, or it would be nice if, or we shoulds, I would have one of two reactions. One would be I would feel completely overwhelmed, like, okay, here's another thing that I should do, and I have to research this, and they're giving me a suggestion, and they're probably right, so I need to take on all this work because it's another thing I should do. Or I would get defensive. Right? They've said something that I should have already done. Like, I should have thought about that. And I start feeling like, yeah, but we don't have enough money for that. We don't have enough capacity. I would have all these defensive feelings, which whether I was overwhelmed or defensive, immediately I would shut down. So I'm no longer hearing the suggestion. I am just hearing something that's making me feel triggered. And I want to get out of this situation as quickly as possible. They don't understand me. They don't understand what role I'm playing, and I would shut it down. As I have grown in my leadership capacity, I have actually figured out how to get excited about when somebody comes to me with a you should, or it would be nice if. And sometimes it's direct criticism. Sometimes they are like, this shouldn't be run this way. We shouldn't have, kids outside during this time, or we shouldn't have systems and processes that are this sloppy, or like whatever they're calling out. It might be a direct criticism, but I have found a way to become excited about this, to lean into this, and to not shut down, not get overwhelmed, and actually be able to address the person's concerns without taking on a bunch more work. So I'm able to nurture this person's relationship, and I'm able to nurture the possible innovation that they're offering me without taking on a bunch of work. So I want to tell you about this neat framework I use called the LEARN method. And it is a framework that you can use anytime you're feeling like somebody's saying you should, or they're making a suggestion, they're giving you feedback, or they're giving you a criticism. You can use this simple framework and stay engaged, meet their needs while meeting yours, and staying out of being defensive and overwhelmed. Let's talk about it. Welcome to episode 46 of the For Purpose live show, where I help you get clear, get focused, and be impactful by showing you how to step fully into the calling that you have been given without taking on that common narrative that nonprofits have to struggle. That's right. Together we can get you in your sweet spot using your talents and gifts to serve this world while building a movement for your cause simply by living for purpose, on purpose. I am Rebecca Britt, your host, and today we are talking about taking criticism like a leader and using it to build relationships and foster innovation and not get defensive and overwhelmed. If you want just the simple PDF of this framework, head on over to forpurposelive.com/learn. forpurposelive.com/learn. You can grab it, print it out, put it on your desk so that you can remember that you are in a state of learning when somebody's going to give you feedback, criticism, suggestions, okay? That is why it's called the LEARN method, because you need to be dedicated to learning. In one way, one of the best ways in which we learn is through our stakeholders, our volunteers, our clients, our staff, our board, okay? These are all people that are willing to tell us how they receive us, how they receive our goods and services. So as much as you're working really hard, and nobody probably gets how hard you're working, if they are going to make a suggestion, then we need to be there to listen to it. We need to be there and willing to learn. So simply by having this framework up, you can remind yourself that you're dedicated to learning more. You always want to learn more, and you're going to learn more by listening to your community, okay? So the first part of the LEARN method is L. It starts with L, and that stands for listen, okay? So you are going to genuinely listen to the feedback or the suggestions being made. So somebody comes to you, hey, we should, and listen. Try to acknowledge if you're having like a barrier put up, a wall put up, and try not to be like, oh my gosh, yes, I'm hungry and I have 16 other things to do, so I'm just going to let this person talk and get over it. Genuinely try to listen, okay? Empathize is E. The E in the learn method is empathize. Put yourself in their shoes. Validate their position. So, what I used to do is somebody would come to me and they would be like, oh, we should do fundraisers and go to the, the local craft fair and do these fundraisers. And I already in my head was like, it's not a good idea. We've tried that, or it's low ROI, whatever. We're going to go down there to the craft fair. It's going to cost us $500 to rent the booth. We're going to set up all these things to sell for a fundraiser. And then after the whole day, we brought in, like, if we're lucky, $150. Like, not a great idea. But before being rude, dismissive, and shutting somebody out, you need to empathize with them. Put yourself in their shoes, validate their position. They've never done fundraising before. All they know is they're a volunteer. They care about your cause. They know that you need money. So they're like, I could sell bracelets or t-shirts or something. Okay, and even if you want to eye roll and be like, that's not the type of fundraising we need, it's not okay. Somebody is willing to put themselves out there and give you an idea. So that's what brings us into A, is after you've empathized, you need to think, okay, they are just a volunteer, and if I was a volunteer coming up with an idea and excited about it, I would want somebody to receive it. So now you're receiving it. You realize that they are just a volunteer coming up with a nice idea for you. So you've received it. Now ask. The A in the learn method is to ask. Ask them to help you in making the changes they want to make. So say, wow, that's awesome. I don't know what it takes to get into the craft fair, and I'm not sure how much money we could possibly make, but if you could draft up a plan of whether or not it would actually bring us in money, and if you have some ideas or you have things that you would sell there, and like if you could do this or if you could find other volunteers to do this, I think it's a great idea. Would you like to work on drafting that up for me? Okay, so ask them. If they are coming to you with a criticism and they say like, you should have all the volunteers clean up at the end of all of the sessions because the place looks bad or something. Maybe they're criticizing it. Instead of getting defensive or overwhelmed, you put yourself in their position like, you know what? They want your place to look good. They want your place to look nice, and they noticed that it didn't look nice. So if you're staying in a learning mindset, you want your place to look nice too, right? So you're going to listen, you're going to empathize and be like, okay, they just care about how your place looks to the outside world, and then say, how do you think we should do that? I'm nervous that if we ask volunteers to clean up the property after every session, that they won't want to stay. Like, I feel like I'm already asking them to do so much, but I have a hard time keeping up with it. How do you think we should handle this? Would you be willing to think of some ideas for me or with me? Okay. So that might be like they come up with, well, maybe we should have a dedicated volunteer that's just here for cleanup. Maybe we should come up with a new position, whatever. But it doesn't mean that you take on new work. Like, ask them. And what's beautiful is they're the person that cares about it, right? They're the person that brought up the criticism, the suggestion, the whatever. So if they are that passionate about it, then they're probably the ones that would like to take ownership of it. If they don't take ownership, if they're like, I don't know how to do it, or, I don't know, I haven't looked into it, or they don't, go do it, then it's a dead issue, right? Like, they obviously didn't care about it that much, and next time it comes up, it'll be like, yeah, I know, we talked about that before, but nothing came of it, okay? So after ask, you have the R in learn, and that is research. So this is actually taking time, like remove yourself from the immediate suggestion, from the immediate conversation, and actually research. So this actually might not be you researching. This might be them going out and researching a change. So this might be what you task them to do in the ask section. But you're going to go back and research. If they do come up with a plan of how you could go to the craft fair and you could fundraise, or they come up with a plan on how you could make the property more clean or whatever, and they submit it to you, you're going to have to take time to look at their proposal and research it and decide how this could work for you. You can also decide that it doesn't work for you, okay? Or there could be more questions that you need to ask. You might have to do more research. Are we going to be able to get volunteers that do that? put that all back on the initial person that made the suggestion. Continue asking them questions, continue asking them to do research until either they give up because they're like, this isn't worth the time, or they get you to a place where you're like, sweet, we're going to now go to the craft fair, or we're going to now actually, have an extra volunteer that's going to just clean the property, or whatever the thing is, okay? I want to give you an example of if it's something that you couldn't ask somebody else to do. Like, let's say somebody comes to you with a complaint where they're like, this is actually completely, whatever's happening here is completely inappropriate, and we feel like it's unsafe or whatever. Like, say it's something that really does need direct attention. You're, of course, going to feel defensive of it because they're going to say that it's like inappropriate or it's unsafe or something like that. You still want to do this. You still want to listen. You want to empathize with them. Like, I get that that's a concern. Thank you so much for bringing this to my attention. I get that that would make you feel unsafe and it could make others feel unsafe. The ask in this situation is not, can you help me fix this inappropriate situation? Or can you help me do research on how I would make this safe? The ask is simply, could you give me a couple weeks to look into this, to talk to the board, to figure out how we're going to address this? That way they feel like you're taking action, but they also feel like, they're not going to go out into the world and say, oh, this place has this horrible thing going on. You've asked them for a couple weeks. Can you give me a couple weeks to address this? I'll hop on it immediately, but I'll get back to you. Okay. And then the research part is your part. This is where you look into their claims. You look into a possible solution to their claims. You go to the board. Okay. And you do make some type of decision. So even if it's something where it wouldn't be appropriate to task the volunteer or the staff or whoever made the suggestion with coming up with the solution, you still want to ask them to give you some time, and then you do the research, okay? And then the final part of learn is N, which stands for notify. And y'all, this is the most important part, and this is the part that cultivates, fosters the relationship, and this is the part that we so miss out on. And it's such an easy part because we came up with something, right? We just need to notify them. This is the feedback loop, okay? Somebody has a concern, a suggestion, or whatever. And if we get defensive and overwhelmed and we shut it down and then we just move on, then people stop coming to us with suggestions. People stop giving us feedback. People stop giving us criticisms because they're like, she just doesn't change. And so then they get a bad taste in their mouth and then they leave. And then that's not the energy you want. You want people to feel like they are heard. You cannot ask for buy-in to your mission if you are not allowing people to feel seen and heard and take ownerships of different parts of your programming, different parts of your mission. Okay? So if every time somebody comes to you with an idea to fundraise and you're like, that's stupid, it won't make enough money, or that's basically what your energy says, and you shut them down, you think they're going to fundraise for you? But if you give them a project, even if it's only going to bring in $150, but they do all the work, what does it matter? Let them do that, and then let them see on their own, like, oh, this is a lot of work for $150. I would have rather just written a check. And then maybe they write a check, or maybe they come up with better fundraising solutions, but you let them do it all on their own, while empowering them and giving them ownership and letting them do what they want to do to help serve your mission. So the N, notifying them, is coming back to the person with the initial suggestion and saying, I heard you and this is what we're doing. Okay? This is the plan. This is the decision we've made. This is what we're going to implement. I looked into it. This is what I came up with. Even if the decision isn't, you don't have to change every time. You can say, like, I looked into it and you're right. Like, it would be awesome if we had this software or we had this situation, but it's going to cost us too much and it's going to take away from our programming or our missions. So until we can raise X number of dollars, we can't implement that. But I'm with you. Like, if you can help me, and once you're notifying them, bring them more into the process. If you can help me come up with that money, or we can do a fundraising campaign together, like, or we can articulate this need better on the website, I'm all for it. But I researched it and this is the decision we came to. Okay. So you just want to notify, like, this might just be sending an email that to your whole newsletter that's like, hey, Cindy came to us last month with a concern that the property doesn't get cleaned up every time after session. But we didn't want to put that burden on the mentors that come to our place because we feel like they're already giving so much. So what we did is we launched a volunteer position that is just a cleanup crew. This is how you can sign up. We already had our first cleanup crew come out. So now the person, Cindy, doesn't feel like she criticized it. You're not hiding behind the fact that your property was disgusting and Cindy said this and it's all this weird. No, you're like, hey, everybody, Cindy said the property could use some cleaning up. And it's all of our responsibility. But we didn't want to put it on this person. So we came up with this solution and this is how it's working. And now it's working well. So use it as a communication opportunity. Everybody loves transparency. So you can use it as a story. This was a criticism. This is how we addressed it. We're honoring Cindy for coming up and being brave and vulnerable and telling us. We love to hear feedback. We're always here to grow. We're always here to learn. That's the method. You lean in. You listen. You empathize. Put yourself in their shoes. If this was you, how would you want to be treated? Ask them to take some ownership. Ask them how they would do the solution. Don't think immediately that you have to come up with a solution. Ask them what they think. Do the research. Either they do the research or you do the research. Research what it would take. Have an open mind about it. And then once you've come up with the decision or you've gotten the new solution or you've implemented something new, notify the person that came up with it. Notify the whole community that you did this thing, that you implemented this new system, this new process. You're making things better, that you're improving. Okay? Show them that you went through the LEARN method. All right. I hope that this helps you get out of shame, get out of overwhelmed, get out of defensiveness, and step into learning and having this relationship, this beautiful give and take with any of your stakeholders, community members, anyone. This isn't about you having to hold everything and you being good or bad. This is about us coming together and all doing the best we can for this mission. So it's not a you versus them. It's all of us together. And if you take on this learn mentality, really is what it is, you can take all that burden off and you can start working together, start leveraging these people that have ideas, get excited about the innovation that they might cause, and take some things off your plate and build great relationships. All right. If you want the LEARN method so that you can print it out, put it on your desk, and remember it next time somebody comes to you with criticism or feedback or suggestions or anything, head on over to forpurposelive.com/learn and you can get that and print it out. I hope this was helpful. Please subscribe, like, share this with somebody that it would be helpful for. This is just how leaders need to take criticism and feedback. And trust me, I have worked for plenty of leaders that don't. They don't do all of these steps. Even if they listen and empathize and they engage you in the process, they don't notify, they don't tell you how anything changed, nothing might change, and you're kind of left feeling like, I don't even know if I was heard. So you've really got to step through all of them. And this is such an easy way. It's like a win-win situation to build that leadership muscle, build your community and your movement for your cause. Please comment below if this was helpful for you. Drop your nonprofit's name. I want to see the nonprofits that are getting supported by this and say hi. All right. Okay. Thank you so much for your service to this world. Until next time.